Hey everyone, I've been putting this one off until I saw New Mutants, and now that time has finally come, so let's do this. Today I'm going to be ranking the X-Men franchise. Starting off way down at the bottom, my number 13 is X-Men Origins Wolverine. This one is bad. Really bad. But it does at least get some things right. Most of the acting is at least decent. Hugh Jackman is great as usual, Liev Schreiber is awesome as Sabretooth, and Danny Huston is pretty good as Stryker. They also did a pretty good job casting young Cyclops. The kid they got isn't very good, but he at least looks like a young James Marsden, so that's something. Some of the action is good. The opening credits sequence where they fight through all the wars is pretty cool, probably the best part of the movie. And at least from a choreography standpoint, the final battle is pretty good. As for the elephant in the room, yes, this movie completely butchered Deadpool. As an original character, Weapon 11 is actually a pretty cool concept, combining the powers of different mutants into one killing machine. But why did they have to make it Deadpool? There was really no reason to. They could have given him a different name and made him a new character and it would have been fine. Instead it just looked like this. Don't judge me. The CGI claws look terrible. Seriously, this is 9 years after the original movie, and the claws look worse. What the hell? And most of the action is very cartoony, to the point where I couldn't take it seriously. The plot is thin, the music is generic, and overall, it's just kind of boring. My score is 1.5 out of 5. This one might be a little surprising. My number 12 is X-Men: The Last Stand. This is the kind of mediocre movie that does a lot of things very right and a lot of things very wrong. The acting is solid. The returning cast members are all great. Ellen Page is good as Kitty Pryde, and Kelsey Grammer is awesome as Beast. The action is good, and there are some solid dramatic moments. On the other hand, this movie just doesn't have the character-based plot that the first two movies had. Some of the characters have arcs that make sense. Rogue, who has always viewed her powers as more of a curse than a gift, wants the cure, and when she sees Bobby hanging around with Kitty, she gets jealous and just decides to go for it. So at least that makes sense. Logan learns to work with the team, and in doing so is able to defeat Magneto.
Logan, we work as a team!
Yeah, good luck with that. Throw me. Now!
Damn it, Logan, don't do this!
This is it. Hey, let me get a strike. You never learn, do you? Actually, I do.
That makes sense. On the other hand, some of the characters go in directions that just don't seem right. Charles kind of becomes a villain here. I mean, the reasons behind his actions make sense, but ultimately it's not a good shading for his character. Magneto, a Holocaust survivor, comes dangerously close to Hitler levels of villainy. I mean, not the genocide part, but we are the cure. Okay, take it down a notch. Overall, this movie isn't quite as bad as its reputation suggests, but it's more bad than good. My score is 2.25 out of 5. Next up, number 11 is Dark Phoenix. This is the best adaptation of the Phoenix saga we've seen so far, and that's not saying much. The acting is mostly solid. Sophie Turner's American accent is improving, and James McAvoy is really good. Nicholas Hoult, Ty Sheridan, and Cody Smith-McPhee are all good, and Michael Fassbender is just fantastic. When Hank tells Eric that Raven is dead, you see the anguish in his eyes. This movie has some solid effects, both practical and digital. This car crash is practical. This helicopter crash is also practical, minus the rotors. The action is pretty good. The little skirmish between the X-Men and the Brotherhood is pretty fun. And the final battle on the train is seriously underrated. And finally, the scene where Jean makes Charles walk up the stairs is just uncomfortable in the best way possible.
Walk to me.
You know I can't. No. Please, Jean. Please.
On the other hand, the villains are generic and underdeveloped. Jessica Chastain is doing what she can, but she doesn't have a whole lot to work with. And while most of the acting is fine, Jennifer Lawrence is definitely phoning it in. Like The Last Stand, this movie makes the mistake of trying to cram the Phoenix Saga into one movie. I haven't read the comics, but based on what I know, it needs at least two. And the next decade time skip makes even less sense than the one on Apocalypse. I mean, I know they needed a reason to get him into space, but they could have kept it in the 80s, and there were still real-life events that could have gotten them into space. And as a result, these characters are actually 10 to 20 years older than they look.
These timelines are so confusing.
Yeah, what he said. My score is 2.5 out of 5. Number 10 is X-Men Apocalypse. This one veered head-on into generic blockbuster territory. Jennifer Lawrence is phoning it in, but the rest of the cast is good. Apocalypse is definitely a generic villain, but Oscar Isaac chews the scenery like a pro.
No more swords. No more weapons. No more systems. No more. No more superpowers.
The action is good, and Quicksilver saving everyone is just awesome. On the other hand, this movie is too long and too generic. The plot is predictable, and while the action is good, it's just nothing special. My score is 2.75 out of 5. Number 9 is The Wolverine. In hindsight, this movie feels like James Mangold doing a dry run before Logan. The cast is solid, and I apologize in advance for any names I'm about to butcher. Besides Hugh Jackman, Tao Okamoto, Rila Fukushima, Hiroyuki Sanada, Brian T., Haruhiko Yamanouchi, and Will Yun Lee are all good. The action is good, even if some of it could be better. And I like that this movie picks up after The Last Stand and shows us Logan's grief after having to kill Jean. On the other hand, this movie is seriously held back by the PG-13 rating. The action is fine, but the violence feels very neutered by the lack of any blood. Like Wonder Woman, the third act was a victim of studio interference, and it's just kind of generic. I don't hate it, but it definitely kind of felt cartoony. My score is 3.25 out of 5. My number 8 is the original X-Men. This movie was a milestone for comic book adaptations, even if not every aspect of it holds up 20 years later. First off, the casting is spot on. Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Anna Paquin, Famke Janssen, James Marsden, Shawn Ashmore, and Rebecca Romijn all give solid performances. And they just seem to get their characters. Likewise with Halle Berry, even though I have no idea what the hell that accent is supposed to be. What is that supposed to be, Kenyan or whatever? I don't know. It's not a very good accent. Thankfully, she dropped it in the sequels. Ray Park isn't a great actor, but he's clearly having a lot of fun, and Toad is a lot of fun to watch. The action is pretty great, and the effects are a surprisingly solid mixture of CGI and practical stuff. And also, the music is awesome. On the other hand, the writing is good overall, but it has its weak spots for sure. There are some special effects that don't really hold up, and there are a few dumb moments here and there. For example, when Magneto and his guys kidnap Rogue, and Professor X can't mind control Magneto because of the helmet, and so he mind controls Sabretooth to threaten him, but ultimately he's bluffing because he doesn't want to kill anyone.
You Homo sapiens and your guns.
That's enough, Eric.
Let them go.
Why not come out where I can see you, Charles? What now? Save the girl? You'll have to kill me, Charles. And what will that accomplish? Let them pass that law and they'll have you in chains with a number burned into your forehead. It won't be that way. Then kill me and find out. Huh? Then release me.
Okay, so here's my question. Why not just mind control Sabretooth or Toad to take off Magneto's helmet and then mind control him? You're supposed to be a really smart dude, Charles. You should have thought of that. My score is 4 out of 5. Number 7 is The New Mutants. Back when this movie was scheduled for a 2019 release, I predicted that it would be better than Dark Phoenix, but Dark Phoenix would make more money. Well, so far, I'm right about the first part, at least in my opinion, and I guarantee I'll be right about the second part. The New Mutants is a perfect example of an average or above average movie that is elevated by its characters. The cinematography and editing are good, and the writing and musical score are very good. The effects aren't the best, but they're exactly as good as they need to be for this kind of movie. And there are also some more subtle effects that I honestly couldn't tell if they were practical or digital. Blue Hunt is the weak link in the cast, but she's still good. Maisie Williams, Charlie Heaton, Alice Braga, and Henry Zaga are all great, and Anya Taylor-Joy is fantastic. Magik is by far the most interesting character, and Anya Taylor-Joy does a really good Russian accent, at least to my barely trained ears.
Take Danny to a safe place, and I'll take care of this bear. Mutants! What are you going to do? I'm going to play with them. Get her out of here.
Are you crazy? That thing will kill you!
He's right, it's magic. So am I.
Also, Charlie Heaton does a really good Kentucky accent.
Are you crazy? That thing will kill you!
This is directed by Josh Boone, who also gave us The Fault in Our Stars, which I haven't seen, but my sister loves it, so that definitely helped here. The characters' relationships develop naturally, and Blue Hunt and Maisie Williams are adorable together. The story moves along at a nice steady pace, and it never really feels rushed or stretched. The plot is sometimes predictable, and the third act is kind of generic, but otherwise this is a solid superhero flick.
Stay away from her, you bitch!
The score is 4.1 out of 5. Number 6 is Days of Future Past. This was the movie that united the old and the young casts, and it barely wastes any of that potential. The acting is all good, if not great. The scene where old Charles talks to young Charles is just phenomenal.
So much pain.
It's not that pain you're afraid of. It's yours, Charles. And as frightening as it may be, that pain will make you stronger. If you allow yourself to feel it, embrace it, it will make you more powerful than you ever imagined. It's the greatest gift we have, to bear their pain without breaking. And it's born from the most human part. Hope. Please, Charles, we need you to hope again.
Also, Peter Dinklage makes a surprisingly great villain.
We are talking about a tenth of a tenth of a tenth of our population.
Allow me to read something to you.
Please.
This was acquired by our friends at the CIA. It's a dissertation written by a mutant at Oxford University. And I quote, "To Homo neanderthalensis, his mutant cousin Homo sapiens, which is us, was an aberration. The arrival of the mutated human species, Homo sapiens, was followed by the immediate extinction of their less evolved kin. Well, now we are the Neanderthal."
The action is some of the best in the franchise, especially the final battle in the future, and the Quicksilver scene is just pure cinematic gold.
If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do.
And on that note, some people complained that Quicksilver wasn't in this movie enough, and yes, more Quicksilver would have been nice. How were Charles and the others supposed to convince him to stay? To get him to help them the first time, they had to appeal to his inner kleptomaniac and tell him that they're breaking into the Pentagon. So how are they going to get him to help them with something that doesn't involve breaking into somewhere or stealing things? And finally, I like that this movie takes a different approach to time travel than movies usually do. I don't really have a lot of problems with this movie, but some of the dialogue isn't great, and some of the CGI does not hold up very well. My score is 4.25 out of 5. Number 5 is Deadpool. This movie was a breath of fresh air for superhero movies. Ryan Reynolds is just perfect casting for Deadpool. Like, anyone else in the role would feel wrong.
The day I decided to become a crime-fighting shit-swizzler who rooms with a bunch of other little whiners at the Neverland mansion of some creepy, old, bald, Heaven's Gate-looking motherfucker, on that day, I'll send your shiny happy ass a friend request. But until then, I'm gonna do what I came here to do. Either that, or slap the bitch out of you.
Wait.
Hey.
Zip it, Sinead.
Hey, douche pool.
And I hope you're watching.
Morena Baccarin, T.J. Miller, Brianna Hildebrand, Ed Skrein, and Karen Soni all give solid performances, and all of the actors who portray Colossus bring him to life better than I could have ever expected. The action is great, the meta-humor and humor in general is hilarious, and it manages to tell a fairly unique origin story in under 2 hours. My score is 4.5 out of 5. My number 4 is X2, X-Men United. 10 years ago, this was one of the best superhero movies of all time. Now, it's still great. Like, it's not in my top 10, but it is in my top 20. This is also a sequel that improves on the original in almost every way. The plot is more interesting and more engaging, and I love seeing the X-Men and the Brotherhood team up. They made for some entertaining banter and some interesting dynamics.
Why don't we get uniforms?
Yeah, where's ours?
They're on order. Should arrive in a few years.
We love what you've done with your hair.
Hey, come on.
The acting is just as great, and Halle Berry has definitely improved now that she dropped that accent. The action is better.
Oh my God.
The musical score is better. It's just better. My score is 4.75 out of 5. Number 3 is X-Men First Class. I have one problem with this movie. January Jones. I love Mad Men, and I love her in it. But in First Class, she is just bland as hell. Everything else is great. The acting, writing, action, characters, special effects, cinematography, editing, musical score. They're all great.
Come on, try again.
Kevin Bacon is one of the more versatile actors in Hollywood right now, and he makes a fantastic villain. The scene where Charles has Shaw frozen, and Magneto pushes the coin through his head.
This is what we're going to do. No, please, Eric, no. I'm going to count to 3, and I'm going to move the coin. 1. Please, Eric. 2. 3.
Oh, so unnerving. It's great stuff. My score is 4.8 out of 5. Number 2 is Deadpool 2. Like X2, this movie improves on the first movie in pretty much every way. The action scenes are definitely better. Ryan Reynolds is once again perfect as Deadpool. Josh Brolin is awesome as Cable. He makes for a good foil to Deadpool.
There's nothing I can't kill.
Well, like Scoutmaster Kevin used to say, there's a first time for everything, son. Hey, give me your best shot, One-Eyed Willie. Oh, those bullets are like super fast.
And Zazie Beetz is like the unsung hero here. I love how supportive Domino is of Deadpool.
While we go get our fuck on.
You're doing great.
And finally, the skydiving scene is one of the best skydiving scenes ever put to film.
Little off course here. Ooh, holy mommy fucking shit.
No! Ripping motherfucking Billies! You idiot! Oh! Oh!
Oh my god, what the fuck? Fucking acidic vomit.
My score is 4.9 out of 5. Finally, my number 1 is Logan. This movie is a masterpiece. Daphne Keane is amazing. She is playing off of acting powerhouses, Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, and she's holding her own.
I don't know how you got me here, but, thank you.
De nada.
Yeah. You can talk? You can talk? Fuck. Well, why the fuck? What's all this bullshit been for the last 2,000 fucking miles? What? Okay, shut up. Shut the fuck up!
And also, she's a total badass. Logan is at the ripe old age of 197, so he has a serious case of survivor's guilt. And Charles doesn't have some fictional ailment. He doesn't have the super flu or the mutant virus or whatever. He has Alzheimer's. As Dr. Rice puts it, a degenerative brain disease in the world's most powerful brain. That's why I love this movie. It doesn't feel like a comic book movie. It feels more like a Western. And it works. It really works. James Mangold also gave us Walk the Line, which wasn't a Western but felt like one, and 3:10 to Yuma, which was a remake of a classic Western. His personal style is a big part of what makes this movie work. The scene in the hotel hallway, when Charles is having a seizure and Logan is like struggling down the hallway. Oh, it's so intense. Like camping. The dinner scene with the family that they help is just so delightful. It is such a treat to watch.
I can drop out of school.
Okay, let's not go that far.
I mean, I'll do it.
No.
Why not?
No.
You want to travel.
Son,
I want to travel.
That sounds good to you, right?
This is a perfect
Now,
plan.
why would you want to do that, Nate?
Careful, you're speaking to a man who ran a school for a lot of years, right, Charles?
Really? Well, yes. There was a kind of special needs school.
Yeah, that's a good description.
He was there, too.
Oh, yeah, no, I got kicked out a few times.
I wish I could say you were a good pupil, but the words would choke me.
And apparently a lot of the dialogue was improvised, which, good for them. It worked. X-24 is an awesome villain. He's not the best, but he's awesome. He's like the ultimate personification of Logan's fear. He is everything that Logan wants to forget. The mindless killing machine that just followed orders. He is Logan's inner demon brought to life. Now, we've seen Logan's berserker rage back in X2, but now we finally get to see it in all of its bloody glory. And it is awesome. And finally, just the ending. The fact that Yukio's prophecy from the Wolverine came true.
So what did you see?
I see you on your back. There's blood everywhere. You're holding your own heart in your hand. It's not beating.
Now, this movie is set in a different timeline from the Wolverine, but it's safe to assume that the same events took place, just slightly different. But still, Logan dies on his back, with blood everywhere, holding his heart in his hand. I'm just talking about it and I'm ready to tear up. Give me a sec.
Oh, this is what it feels like.
Okay, I'm good. What else can I say about this movie? It's amazing. My score is 5 out of 5. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. What do you guys think? What's your ranking? Go ahead and tell me in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that. And if you don't like the video, subscribe anyway so you can tell me how bad my other stuff is. That's all for today. Stay safe in these crazy times.